Good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to thank you for joining us for today's episode of TABC Talks. I will be your presenter. My name is Kara Stevens, and I am the Lubbock Area Regional Supervisor for Audit and Investigations Division. First, I'd like to go over a disclaimer. The following agency guidance was developed to improve internal and external communications and ensure a more consistent application of TABC statutes and rules. This guidance reflects appropriate processes, requirements, and interpretations based on the general situations presented herein. This guidance may not apply to every situation. So if you have any questions about how this guidance will apply to your specific circumstance, just contact your local TABC office directly. So during this presentation, you may interact with me using the chat feature located in the toolbar at the bottom of your presentation window. I will review your questions and answer them after the presentation. If you experience any sort of technical issues, just visit Zoom's Help Center at the provided website address. So today we're going to be reviewing how to legally sell alcohol to go in Texas. Here's an overview of the information I'm going to be covering today. First of all, we are going to review the general authority of to-go transactions. Then we will cover the different manufacturing tier permits who can provide to-go transactions. We're also going to review the different retailers and how they can provide to-go sales. At the end, I'm going to provide you with a summary of the information provided. So to begin with, here's the general authority of to-go transactions. They occur when a business sells alcohol to a consumer and delivers the product to the consumer on site. The business may transfer possession of the product to the consumer either on the business's premise or at a nearby location that is under its direct or indirect control. This means that to-go orders may be delivered inside the business, curbside, in an adjacent parking lot, or at a boat dock. Once the order has been picked up by the consumer, then they can take the products away from the location to consume responsibly at home or elsewhere. So to start off, we're going to review our manufacturing tier. We're going to review the brewers and the manufacturers permits. So there are eligibility requirements for these Texas breweries, and that their annual production of malt liquor may not exceed 225,000 barrels. There is an exemption for this requirement for locations permitted on or before February 1st of 2017. So check with your local TABC office to verify if your business falls under the exception or not. To-go orders placed by the consumer do not need to be accompanied with a food purchase. All alcoholic products must be in containers sealed by the brewery. Now there is a limit on the sales to the individual consumers to 1 case per person per day. And also total annual sales are limited to 5,000 barrels per year, which includes on and off-premise consumption sales. Your employee completing the transaction must be 18 years of age or older. The purchaser must be 21 years of age or older and must not be intoxicated. And the transaction must occur during the brewery's legal hours of sales. For more details on beer to-go transactions by brewers and manufacturers, just read TABC's August 29th, 2019 industry notice that is located on our website. Up next, we have the distiller's permit. Now, there are local option election requirements for distilleries to be able to offer to-go sales. If the permit was issued on or after September 1st of 2013, then a local option election must allow sale of alcoholic beverages for off-premise consumption only. All alcoholic beverages except for mixed beverages, or all alcoholic beverages including mixed beverages. Now, if the permit was issued before September 1st of 2013, then the local option election must allow for the sale of one of the three options above: mixed beverages, or mixed beverages in restaurants by food and beverage certificate holders only. To-go orders placed by the consumer do not need to be accompanied with a food purchase. And all these alcoholic products must be in containers sealed by the distillery and may not be larger than 750 milliliter bottles. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I'm just now seeing your chats. I don't know, I was sharing it and it disappeared. I apologize. Is it back now? Oh, good. I am so sorry. I apologize. Let's see. Let's get back then. So now that you can see the screen, let's get to our next slide. We're still on distilleries. For distilleries, they do have a limit on the sales to the individual consumer in that they may not sell more than 2 750 milliliter bottles to the same person in a 30-day period. The total annual sales are limited to 3,500 barrels per year. The employee completing the transaction must be 18 years of age or older. The purchaser must be 21 years of age or older and must not be intoxicated. The transaction must occur during the distillery's legal hours of sales. We ask for you to please refer to TABC's code section 105.081B regarding distillers' legal hours of sale for off-premise consumption. Up next, we have our wineries. So all wineries have the authority to conduct to-go sales. These to-go orders placed by the consumer do not need to be accompanied with a food purchase. All alcoholic products must be in containers sealed by the winery. So wineries do not have a limit on sale amount to individuals, but are limited to 35,000 gallons per year for to-go sales. The employee completing the transaction needs to be 18 years of age or older, and the purchaser must be 21 years of age or older and must not be intoxicated. The transaction must occur during the winery's legal sales hours. So now we're going to move on to our retailer locations. So first we're going to review the off-premise locations. The following licenses and permits are allowed to conduct to-go sales. They include wine and beer retailers off-premise permits, the retail dealer's off-premise license, the package store permit, and the wine-only package store permit. For these locations, to-go orders may include any number of beers, ales, wines, and/or distilled spirits, and the sale does not need to be accompanied with a food order. All alcohol products must be in containers sealed by the manufacturer. So the employee completing the transaction in the wine and beer off-premise locations must be 18 years of age or older. For the package store locations, the employee needs to be 21 years of age or older. For the wine-only package store, the employee must be 16 years of age or older. The purchaser must be 21 years of age or older and must not be intoxicated. The transaction must occur during the retailer's legal hours of sale. So next we're going to go over our on-premise consumption locations. This slide covers locations who only sell beer and or wine products. The following permits are authorized to sell beverages to go. So you have the wine and beer retailer's permit, the BG, who may sell wine, beer, and malt liquors with an ABV that does not exceed 17%. You have your retail dealer's on-premise license, who may sell beer. And then we have our brew pub license, which is the supported permit, and they can sell malt liquor, ale, or beer if it is allowed under their primary permit. To-go sales for these locations may include any number of beers, ales, and or wines, and does not need to be accompanied with food. Now, these are the only permits who are authorized to sell in containers that are sealed by the retailer, in addition to containers that are sealed by the manufacturer. These retailers may mix and sell wine and beer-based cocktails. Again, the employee completing the transaction must be 18 years of age or older. The purchaser needs to be 21 years of age or older and must not be intoxicated. And the transaction must occur during the retailer's legal hours of sales. We ask for you to refer to TABC's code section 10504 regarding off-premise sale hours. I did see there was a question here that asked, must be 21 years of age or older and not intoxicated. Is a breathalyzer necessary, or is this a judgment call by the establishment? We do not require you to have any sort of devices such as a breath analyzer or anything like that. The Seller Server Training Program, it gives very good suggestions for how to identify intoxicated persons. So I'm going to refer for you to review that information on how to identify intoxicated persons. Next up, we have our mixed beverage permits. Currently, Texas statutes do not authorize to-go sales for these establishments. However, there is a temporary authority that is currently granted by Governor Abbott to waive the to-go sale prohibition for certain mixed beverage restaurants due to the coronavirus disaster. This is only a temporary authority, which will last for the duration of the disaster proclamation or until Governor Abbott revokes the statutory suspension. So this authority allows consumers to pick up alcoholic beverages at qualifying restaurants. We're going to go over those qualifications here in just a moment. So restaurants with a mixed beverage permit, which is an MB or an RM, first off, they do not need to have a food and beverage certificate issued by TABC. A brew pub with a mixed beverage also qualifies under this guidance. So in order to be eligible, the location must have a permanent food preparation facility. These to-go orders, they may include any number of beers, ales, wines, and or distilled spirits. These locations must have orders that are accompanied with a food item that is prepared on site. And all alcoholic products must be in containers sealed by the manufacturer. The retailer may offer cocktail kits for the consumer to mix at home. And any distilled spirit bottles, they need to be limited to the size of 375 milliliters or smaller. So your employee completing the transaction for these locations must be 18 years of age or older. The purchaser must be 21 years of age or older and must not be intoxicated. The transaction must occur during the retailer's legal hours of sale. Now, for more information on to-go transactions for mixed beverage permit holders, we ask that you go to TABC's Coronavirus Information webpage and see the section on to-go orders. You're going to click on TABC's March 19th, 2020 industry notice, which explains Governor Abbott's statutory waiver allowing alcohol to go for mixed beverage restaurants. The TABC private club locations may not conduct to-go sales under existing Texas statute or any of the temporary authorities granted by Governor Abbott. So in summary, there are several TABC permits and licenses who may offer to-go sales to their consumers. For the manufacturing tiers, please review your eligibility requirements. Your to-go transactions do not need to be accompanied with food, and the container must be sealed by the manufacturer. For our off-premise locations, your to-go transactions do not need to be accompanied with food, and the containers must be sealed by the manufacturer. On-premise locations who sell wine and beer only may offer to-go sales without a food order, and the containers may be sealed by the retailer. On-premise mixed beverage locations that are restaurants have the authority to granted to them temporarily to offer to-go sales. Please remember that food must be included in the to-go order, the food must be prepared on the premise, and the containers must be sealed by the manufacturer. Also, the distilled spirit bottles must be 375 milliliter bottles or smaller, and private club locations may not offer to-go sales. Questions. I see that there are several questions that I'm going to review. If you have any others at this moment, go ahead and type them in. I'm going to review them and go over them. But if you are not live or if you even are live and don't wish for me to cover it now, you can also send an email to stakeholder@tabc.texas.gov. Let's see. First off, I want to apologize for my screen not sharing. Let's see. Will this presentation be emailed out after this call? I'm not certain if it's going to be emailed out, but I know that we are making a recording of it and it will be available on our website later to be reviewed. I did go over the question of the 21-year-old, whether or not the judgment call or if you need a device. Let's see, my next question for distilleries, the two 1,500 milliliter we are able to sell. Sorry, I'm not understanding that question. Let's see. What can a brewery manufacturer permit sell? Can they do beer and wine to go? Can they sell in a tap room? Well, the brewery and the manufacturer, they only produce beer and ale, so they are not able to sell wine, but they can sell their beer that they produce themselves to go. And yes, they can sell in a tap room. If they have their own tap room, they're welcome to sell that to go. My next question says, so for clarification, any restaurant with a drive-through, curbside, and takeout service, do we have to sell food with the purchase of alcohol, margaritas, and beer? We don't have a mixed beverage permit. So if you do not have a mixed beverage permit, then you're going to have a beer and wine permit, which then, no, you are not required to have a food purchase with those permit types. Now, your margaritas need to be either wine or beer based. They cannot have any sort of distilled spirit in them. The only locations that we are requiring to have a food purchase is those mixed beverage locations. My next question by Gina, is there a minimum beverage per guest and food? For our locations that are not our mixed beverage locations, there's not a requirement for food. The mixed beverage locations are the only ones that require food. For all of our on-premise locations and our off-premise locations, there's not a limitation on the amount of alcoholic beverages that they can sell to go. The only location that has a limitation is actually our distilleries, who are limited to the size of bottle and also to only 2 750 milliliter bottles per month per person. My next question from Wit, if disaster declaration expires and governor does not extend authority for to-go expires. Yes, if the governor does not extend the temporary authority and removes it, then these mixed beverages who are offering to-go sales will not be allowed to be able to do that anymore. But that is all reliant upon the governor. Okay, Thomas asked, so restaurants can't sell draft beers in cups that are sealed by the restaurant. That is correct for your mixed beverage locations. If that location sells distilled spirits, then they cannot seal draft beers in a cup to go. Let's see. Dimitri asks, what can we do to help get approved, even if only temporarily, the ability for a restaurant to seal their own cocktails with alcohol in the cocktail mix? This is a governor's order. It is the governor who allowed it. TABC is not going to make any changes to the governor's standpoints. Can a brewery, a BP, sell beer to go ranging from a single sealed can to a case that allow it to be consumed on site? I'm sorry, Philip, I'm not understanding that question. You may want to reword it and send it to stakeholder@tabc.texas.gov for us to better answer that question for you. Okay, Todd asks, in a restaurant, a customer orders a bottle of wine and wants to take what is left. Can they? Yes, they can actually. That is written in our TABC code book for a mixed beverage location. That was before even these temporary orders. If you're a restaurant and you sell a bottle of wine with an order of food and the people eat their meal and have a glass, any unopened portion of that bottle of wine is actually able to leave with the customer. Jonathan asks, can we sell margaritas to go in quart or gallon containers? How can we fulfill the requirement of being a sealed container? Okay, so in order for mixed beverage locations to be able to sell these alcoholic beverages to go, for their margaritas to go and everything, like I said, it needs to be a cocktail kit. So if you're doing a gallon container, that gallon container can only have your non-alcoholic beverages included in it. So what you would do then is you would sell your distilled spirits on the side, if it's tequila or vodka, whatever you normally use to make your cocktails, you would sell that in a to-go container. That container, it has to be 375 milliliters or smaller. You would get those containers from your local package store, but anything that's actually in the retailer's sealed container has to be a non-alcoholic beverage product. I hope that makes sense for you. Well, Austin, thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed the presentation. If you have any questions, please let us know. Chris says, please allow the sale of distilled spirits from distributor with permit directly to on-premise MB holders. This would remove. I'm not certain what that is, Chris, but you're welcome to send a question on to stakeholder@tabc.texas.gov, and we'll be happy to help you out with that information. Okay, Austin, okay. At a distillery, we are only able to sell 2 750 milliliter bottles to a guest in a 30-day period. Yes. Does this 1,500 milliliters include to-go mixed beverages? Well, you can't do a to-go mixed beverage. You're the same as a mixed beverage location. If you wish to do like a cocktail to go, you would have to have your non-alcoholic beverages in a container that you sealed, and then your distilled spirits have to be separate. You can't actually have a mixed beverage to go. So yes, that 1,500 milliliters is the max per month to a consumer. So Philip, if a consumer were to purchase a 6-pack of beer from a brew pub, would they be able to consume any of the cans on site? Well, yes, because your brew pub locations are either a BG, a BE, or an MB. So a beer only, or beer and wine on premise, a beer on premise, or a mixed beverage establishment. So yes, they can drink those on site, especially now since everything is opening back up again. Make sure that you stay within the current regulations that the governor has appointed. So we're staying at the 50%. Capacity, but yes, they can consume products that they purchase there, and then anything that is unopened they can take with them. Yes. Whit, what about the customer who wants to buy another bottle unopened to take home? Do they require food to go from an MB? Dined in. That is a very good question, Whit. I think I would need a little more detail as what you're going at there. So I'm assuming you're saying that they sat down, ordered a bottle of wine, maybe drank it all, and wanted another bottle of wine to go. If that's the case, I would need to do a little research into that. Again, right now, the to-go orders for a mixed beverage, so for your mixed beverage establishments too, you need to understand as well that I personally, like, say, example of myself, I went into the location, I sat down and had my dinner and everything. I can't then go and ask for a food order to go with alcohol. It would need to be something that was placed beforehand for them to come in and get to go. If they want to take home what they drank unopened. Well, obviously you're going to have to figure out a way to close the wine bottle, because yeah, I'm sorry, Whit, I'm just really not understanding what you're asking. I apologize. There is another question though from Trevor. Can a customer consume alcohol in the parking lot of an MB establishment if purchased to go with food? That is a good question. They really shouldn't, because the parking lot is part of the premise of the mixed beverage location. It is so interesting with the disaster proclamation that Governor Abbott put in place, whether or not people should be drinking in their parking lot of the mixed beverage or not. Under normal circumstances, we would say no. Under the disaster proclamation, I would need to do a little more research to give you a good answer on that, Trevor. So Definitely, Trevor, please send that question to stakeholder@tabc.texas.gov so that we can look into that more and give you a proper answer on exactly how that would work for the consumer consuming alcohol in the parking lot. And Whit, please email us as well for your questions so we can give you a good answer on that. I don't see anyone else who's asking any questions. Again, if you have any questions, anyone, whether you're watching it live or you're watching it on a replay, if you have any questions on any of this information, please email stakeholder@tabc.texas.gov for any and all questions. Wish to thank you for watching. Please send us recommendations on any topics that you would like for us to cover in future TABC Talks presentations. You can send those also to that stakeholder@tabc.texas.gov. We'd also like for anyone who's watching live to stay on for just a little bit and answer a short questionnaire following this presentation. Thank you so very much. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we look forward to helping you in all future endeavors. Thank you so much.